The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. Tonight we're going to be discussing something that Kerry brought to the table. So, Kerry, all over to you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. How have you been this week anyway, before we get on with the topic?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. There's a couple of little things that have annoyed me this week, but generally, not too bad.
Is it gossip in the paranormal field?
A little bit.
Oh, wow, go on, go for it.
You want me to talk gossip?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I saw a post today, and I wasn't very happy about it, really, which basically was calling people out for paranormal podcasts and kitchen studio radio shows, and that we're only doing it for fame and fortune, that we're only doing it with basic research from, like, Google or books. And I was like, okay, fine.
Isn't that where you get research from anyway?
Well,
I remember doing research at school, and I always had to go down the library.
That's kind of what I was thinking when he wrote it. I thought, well, where would you do your research? And yes, you wouldn't go to the first point of call on Google. You keep going, and you go down rabbit holes, and you find out a lot of things, and look in different areas for work and research. But yeah, I was thinking, like, books. Yeah, I read a lot of books, and I do refer to books and studies that have been done from universities, which I found on Google. And, I took it quite personally, quite frankly. No, I don't think I should either, but I took it quite personally, being as I am a presenter on a podcast radio station on the internet.
And I know for a fact your studio is not in the kitchen.
It's definitely not in the kitchen, for damn sure.
No,
but
I am. I'm in the kitchen now.
And just so everyone knows, it's bonfire night. Well, it's still bonfire night, apparently, for some people, because fireworks are going off, which are the bangs and crashes you can hear. But it annoyed me a little bit, because I think people underestimate the amount of work that kind of goes into putting on a radio show of any station. Anybody who's doing this, everybody underestimates how much work goes into it. When you're doing, all right, I personally don't do the 5 shows a week that we do on Parasearch, but it went on about how we do generic topics, and we all, we talk about the same topic several times. But I've said time and time again, you could take one topic in the paranormal, for example, poltergeists. Every single person on Parasearch, I'm talking about, not anybody else at this point. We could all do a show on the same topic in 1 week and come up with something different.
Of course we could. It's just a big wide world out there.
It's huge. The topic is huge.
Views.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're just talking out of their elbows.
Well, as I say, I was a little offended by this. I haven't responded. I don't get into dramas on socials, but I thought I would address it, because I think sometimes it's very easy to criticise when they don't do it themselves.
Yeah, that's it. And I don't do this for the money. In fact, I'm out of pocket for this.
Same here, mate. But we do it because we love it. Yeah, because we love doing it. And I love looking into different topics. I'm not an expert on any topic, but I would say I have a good general overview of a lot of topics. Mainly because of the research that I've had to do for various radio shows that I've done. And if we were all the same, and this goes across the board, not just for Parasearch, but for other podcasts that are out there. If we were all the same, how boring would that be?
Exactly.
And if horses for courses, mate, if you don't like what you're listening to, don't have to listen.
No, exactly. With this show in particular, it's just like cool, relaxed, have a laugh, but we also give out the information as well.
Exactly.
People are always welcome to join in the chat room and have their say as well.
Uh-huh.
So, we like to incorporate everything, have a bit of everything in this show.
Well, on this station, I think we cover quite a lot of different types of styles of presenting.
It's very diverse.
Yeah, it's very diverse. There's lots of different styles of presenting. There's lots of different topics. We have a lot of different guests come on every single week. Some are great, some are not so good, some are new to the field, some are old hats at the field, some are experts in their own particular field. But we try and give a very overview, like a bit of everything. And we don't just cover the word paranormal. I said this the other night. The word paranormal is a very large, encompassing word for a lot of different areas. And I think we cover those on Parasearch Radio. So when I read this particular post, I was a little miffed at the naivety of what goes into doing a radio show. You did a blog not so long ago about what does it take to be a radio show host. I did. And it is a lot of work. I know Penny, for example, her research on a location can go up to 10 to 12 hours a week. Yeah. That's a lot of time to be researching a show.
Absolutely. I don't research it that much.
No, but that's not just that. But she's done that research for the show. She's sourced a guest. She's done an interview. She then spends her time playing it out and interacting and building relationships and networking, which we all do on Parasearch Radio. And I have to say, I don't often get riled about things that are put out on socials, but that one annoyed me because I know what we do on a weekly basis individually to do this. So I can't imagine any other podcaster not doing that either.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, each podcaster does something different. And, if people like that show, then they're going to follow.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter what anyone's opinions are. If you enjoy something, stick with it.
I completely agree. But when something like that goes out, I do kind of get a little bit grrr about it all because it's so easy to judge, isn't it? And I think this is the main problem. This is a huge problem. It's so easy to judge what somebody else is doing rather than look at your own actions.
Well, I mean, we have it a lot with, the TV shows in particular. The main big one in the UK.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that will slate them, but at the end of the day, they're bringing people into the paranormal. Mm-hmm. Okay, they might believe them to begin with, but then they get into the real stuff and the real nitty-gritty of it, and they learn more and more, and end up coming away from them. But it's a starting platform for them.
Yeah, and I think we've all said when we've covered that particular topic on Parasearch that we all started watching those programs and thinking, God, you can actually go out and do this. And it started us off on the journey that we're on. And because it became a passion for us, we went away and started to educate ourselves and learn. And I'm still learning to this day. I don't know about you.
I know everything, so that's fine. I'm joking, by the way. I'm not that big-headed, honestly.
No. And honestly, guys, if you think we're out here doing this for fame and fortune, well, think again.
Absolutely.
It's exactly the same as when someone sets up a paranormal events team and thinks they're going to be the next big thing on TV. It doesn't happen. And it happens for the very, very few. You do it because it's a passion. You do it because you love the topic. And you love being around like-minded people with the same kind of interests.
Absolutely. Right, so you can put your soapbox away now.
So my soapbox is put away now for the night.
Well, we've had that.
Sorry, you asked me how my week went. That really annoyed me, actually.
Yeah.
Can you tell?
Yeah, I can, actually. Yeah. just a tad.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so last week you said to me that you wanted to do spiritual assaults tonight.
I did, and I'll tell you why. Because I'd been seeing a post on one of the socials, you know.
Really? You do
Funnily-
surprise me.
I know, I do love a social. So, I noticed a post on there, and it's something that's come up again and again and again as we've gone through various investigations and talking to various people. And I saw the scratch thing, you know, where someone's gone on an investigation, and the next thing you know, they get like a burny sensation, and then they lift their coat up or their top up, and oh my God, there's like 3 scratches across their stomach or their back or in an area. And I said, it got me thinking, which is always a bad thing.
Do you know what? I think those scratches are just an advert for Monster drinks.
Well, funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Funny you should say that. So I started to look into this, right? Which is why I said, let's talk about spiritual assault. Because a lot of people have said, whilst they're out and investigating, they get hit, or they get pushed, or they get scratched, or they get something spiritual, allegedly spiritual, assaulting them whilst on an investigation. So I wondered if there was a logical explanation for this, and I can't really think of anybody better to talk about it with, because, you know, you with your St. John's.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Skeptical.
And Mr. Skeptical. So let's take a quick look. I say a quick look. Let's have a look at the scratching scenario, because there was actually quite a few conditions that could cause this without it being a demon attack.
Well, yeah, I mean, people can get marked and scratched for multiple reasons. You know, sometimes you can even, like, brush your arm against something and not notice, but the second you notice, it starts hurting. You must have had that with paper cuts and things like that.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You know, so it's easily done. For me personally, I think it's just a case of that, for the scratches. I mean, I have had an experience of something else, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But as for the scratches go, yeah, I'm not too convinced with scratches just appearing on somebody's body. You know, I know for a fact there was an incident with you actually when you went to somewhere in Pluckley, and you had that spiritual assault. Do you remember? Well, obviously you've got to remember, but.
In Pluckley. Oh, when we was in the pub.
Yeah. Now I know that you've described what happened, and I've heard the footage.
Yeah.
But I'm still not convinced that the guy, the medium that you was with, didn't sort of orchestrate that.
I just know it was a highly emotive scenario, and I personally, I cannot say what caused that.
I know you said to me that the guy wasn't he pushed up against the cupboard?
No, what had actually happened? Let me give everybody a bit of background on this, because if you haven't heard this story, we were in a pub, and it all got quite emotive, and we had a female spirit who was saying she wanted to move over, and we were trying to show her the way, and then all of a sudden a male spirit came in and disappeared with her. Right, that's the only way I can describe it, very, very lightly. Do you know what I mean? Without going into too much depth.
Yep.
He disappeared with her, and we all sort of like was in a bit of. We'd all been very, very linked into that scenario. Yeah. If that makes sense. So, coming off the back of that, it was a very emotional, high adrenaline scenario. Okay, so that's the physical state we were in. And we were trying to help somebody, it wasn't working, then this other person or spirit came in, took this spirit off. Now, if you think about that in terms of if that was actually happening in real life, with two people, that would be quite an emotive situation. And that's exactly what it was. I went into, I'm not going to let that happen scenario. If she wants to get moved over, she will. And I went herring round the location to find where she was, found them, the spirits, in a separate room. I went into the other room, and all I can say was I kind of got froze into a situation, and it felt, from a spiritual perspective, like a battle.
Yep.
And then the medium stepped in, who was a lot more experienced than me. I will grant that, a lot more experienced than I was at the time. And he came in, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and by now I'm shaking like a leaf, right? Mm-hmm. Which could be adrenaline. You can look at it, argue it logically. Yeah, that could be adrenaline. But I knew I couldn't physically move, so I'm now in a stuck scenario, and I'm shaking like a leaf. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he called his guides in to help take that situation away from me and onto him. Yep. He's saying this verbally. Okay. The next thing I know is we are both across the other side of the room. He had got hurt as he had been thrown across the room by the side of a cupboard. It had scratched him very, very deeply down his back. We were both very, very shaken up, obviously, and he was bleeding. We're not just talking like a scratch, we're talking like a deep gouge. But the gouge was caused by the corner of the cupboard as he fell. Yeah. The position we were in, he wasn't like he was holding my hand or had his arms around me or anything like that. He just had his hand on my shoulder. Okay, so he could he have stumbled backwards? I don't believe he would have pulled with that force if it had been a stumble back. It was a forceful. It felt like an energy shock. It's the only way I can describe it. Is looking back, it felt like an energy shock. However, I'm also incredibly aware it was a highly emotive situation. Your brain changes things to fit the facts, as it were. Whether he fell back, pulled me with him, or not, I can't. I don't know. I can't honestly say one way or the other of what exactly happened. I was too emotionally involved in the situation to be able to give it a logical explanation. Yeah, so basically it was just whether he fell back or you was like physically pushed by a spirit, he still injured himself by that cupboard. So obviously you can't say that was a spirit attacking him. It was just a push, sort of get away from us sort of thing. Yeah, that was definitely more like it, but it was quite forceful. Whatever it happened, whether it was a fallback or whether it was an energy blast from spirit or whatever it was, it was very forceful. I ended up on top of him. I mean, when he fell back, he fell on the cupboard. When we sort of was untangling ourselves from each other, I was actually on top of this poor bloke. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It weren't just like, we just fell down. We was across the room. Yeah. Bearing in mind, give you some idea of how big the room was. Not a massive room, but it was not just a step back. Do you know what I mean? It was a few feet back. So, I fell on top of him. So, and I honestly can't. I've fallen over before. Do you know what I mean? I know. I think we've all fallen over, haven't we, everybody? Yeah. Especially when you didn't see that van. Yeah, I know. Oh, dear. Yeah, that was a fun night, that one. Just to film everybody in on that one, I was talking to Paul on Skype and walked into a full-blown van whilst talking to him on Skype. Just saying. Which I found hysterical, he found hysterical, and I had this... And she's never living it down. I've never lived it down. And on the top I was wearing, I literally had a dirt mark where I'd walked straight into this van. But anyway, back to topic. I honestly can't say one way or the other what happened that night. I listened to the audio, and you can tell it's incredibly emotive. You can tell everybody's in high adrenaline states. Yeah. All of us. It weren't just me. It was the medium was in that. We was all in that state. Yeah. And it wasn't a controlled emotional environment. So whether or not that was an emotionally driven scenario or whether that was spirit, I wouldn't like to comment. I just know what I was experiencing, which I can't prove. I can only say I had this female spirit, and then this man came in, spirit, and took her, and then I found them in another room, and then this happened. From a spiritual perspective, I can't prove that. Do you know what I mean? I can only sort of say how it felt for me. I know the aftermath of that. We came out of that location. I was very upset because I don't like anybody getting hurt for a start. That really does upset me, and I felt like it was out of control. And it took me a good few days to get over that. It did take me a while to
Do you
get
know
over
what?
that.
I think it even took you a little bit longer to get over that, to be fair.
Yeah, it took me a while, didn't it?
It did. Because I remember talking to you when we first met on the other station.
Yeah.
And even then it upset you. And that was only going back a couple of years ago.
That's right. I mean, now I can talk about it with a little bit more rational mindset about it all.
Yeah, you sort of moved on since. You know, you learned a lot more.
I've learned a lot since then. But having said that, when I listen to the audio, I still get upset.
Yeah, I can understand why, to be fair. It's just replaying that incident, isn't it? That's what it is.
It had a profound emotional reaction within myself. It really did. And I can't express. I'm talking about it very calmly now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was a mess, wasn't I?
You was. Yeah, I remember.
And it really felt like I'd been violated somehow.
Hmm.
And I can't express that feeling. It's very, very difficult to put it into words. I don't think it was an attack from spirit, but I think it was get away from my territory. I think it was. I think it was if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, from what the spirit was doing, it wasn't attacking me. It was basically saying, "You're not doing this. I'm not allowing this," and pushing us away from achieving.
Just out of curiosity, because I've had something a little bit similar story-wise. The female spirit, was she accused of witchcraft?
In the experience we had, she didn't say any of that. But I know what you're going to say, because I've had this before in a place in Canewdon, where we was trying to, work. And I wasn't working spiritually at all this particular day. I was there completely pre-paranormal days. This was a completely different situation with the medium. And the same thing happened. The female spirit was saying she wanted to move over, and a male spirit came in and went, no, it's not happening. And you've had this as well, haven't you?
I have. We had this. It was actually an experiment that I run, and I've got no psychic ability whatsoever. So I thought, I'm going to do like a little experiment. I didn't know any of the history of this particular location, and it was the Rifles Museum in Hampshire. We turned up to the investigation, and the guy who owned it, he said to me, I want your team to investigate the garden because it's never been done, and we want to know what you pick up. So I'm like, okay then, right. So there was like this apple tree, and he said, I want you to concentrate your investigation around this tree. Now, various other members of the team saw like Lady in White and all that sort of stuff, but not attributed to this tree. So I thought, I'm going to get everyone to stand in a circle around the tree, link arms, and I said to them, I just basically want to get you to clear your minds, close your eyes, and say the first thing that come into mind when I ask a question. And so I basically said, if this spirit here, can you come out with your name? And 3 people said the same name, all at the same time. And as the unveiling of the story went on, it basically turned out that there was a woman that was hung from the tree, and her spirit is still attached around the tree, and she was being held there by a man that it basically doesn't come into the garden, but at the end of the garden there was like a river, stream, and he would wait there, and he was watching what we was doing. And we was like, well, if you want to pass over, then why don't you do it? And she's like, you won't let me. So, it's the same sort of scenario. So I think, there's something in it. And she was accused of witchcraft, and that's why she was hung.
It does make me wonder if it's almost like if a witch has been killed, or if a witch has been killed, it's almost like they've been set a guardian. Yeah,
to make sure that
they don't pass over, as it were. It does seem strange. It does seem strange.
A common link. It's definitely a common link. Definitely.
Well, it's a common scenario we seem to find, or I don't know about you, but I've come across that twice, and you've come across that once yourself.
Yeah. Well, and obviously with what you said as well tonight, it makes sense.
It kind of makes sense.
So when you had your spirit attack, it was more like that scenario, and you was trying to pass over the alleged witch, and it was like, no, you're not doing it.
No, no way on earth are you doing this. No way on earth or non-earth are you doing this. So so it was a bit strange, that scenario. But yeah, as I say, I've listened to we didn't have the video recording. We had the video when we was in the other room, but not when when I left the room, because obviously we were set up in the other room. But I've got the audio of that, and as I say, it still upsets me to this day. If I listen to it, I don't listen to it because of that. But it's interesting how, as I say, looking at it now with a lot more knowledge than I had back then, but it was a personal experience and I can't explain it. Having said that, a psychologist or somebody else in that room would go, it was a highly emotive scenario, you were full of adrenaline, you was in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are logical, psychological things going on there as well. So although you're saying you were attached to, not attached, but you were linked to spirit and this was going on, we can't prove it.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the whole scenario could be put down to all that, except the bit where you said you was pushed by force away.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've worked with you and I trust you, so if you say that's what happened, then that's what's happened.
That's how it felt.
Exactly. So that, to me, I just can't explain that bit. But as for the other medium's injuries, that was basically caused by the cupboard that was there.
The injuries were definitely caused by the fall.
Yeah.
By the fall. But what made us fall in that forceful way is unexplained to me. I wouldn't say it was paranormal, I would say it's unexplained.
Yeah.
Nobody's come up with a decent explanation.
I think we should go back there and sort it.
We can't. They closed the location.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, it got took over by somebody else and they want nothing to do with it.
Oh, let's go down with our proton packs.
We did actually, the team leader at the time approached a different paranormal team and asked them to go and investigate to see what they got whilst they were there. That was after we had had this experience. They did ask them to go and investigate the location for themselves to see, as you do. We had this experience. Somebody completely different, fresh eyes, go into the location. That did happen. But they got very little, I believe, from what I remember.
Okay. So it is a bit hit and miss, though, sometimes with the investigations.
But it can be very hit. I mean, we had been there previously and we'd had nothing like it. Do you know what I mean? We'd been there, we were doing, we'd done that location 2 or 3 times and we had nothing like it. It was just on this last occasion that we went in that had happened. And actually, I remember as we walked off the location, I turned around and said, I won't be coming back here.
Yeah.
I personally won't be coming back here. It felt, and as we were driving away, I turned around and I went, it feels like I've left something behind that's going to make me go back.
Okay.
But I never did go back, and as far as I'm aware, I didn't leave anything behind. So
we'll make sure you get back there one day.
Well, I don't know about that. But anyway,
even if it's a walk past.
It was a very strange situation. It was a very strange situation. But the same with you when you did the rifles. It kind of is a very strange scenario, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I mean, because I've got no psychic ability and I'm not a medium in any way, shape or form. It's sort of, as soon as it got to the point where we was trying to convince this woman that it's okay to pass over, if you want to go. And then when that other spirit started getting closer, because she told us, because she kept warning us that he was getting closer and closer and closer. So I was like, right, okay, well, what I'll do, I'm going to go. And I'll get someone in that can actually do what they do,
Yeah, do this.
Yeah, someone that can actually forcibly have the energy to push them or whatever they do to make them go.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've done. I convinced her that we'd be back, and I brought in 2 other mediums in the group, and I said, I want you to do your mediumship around this tree. I'm not going to tell you what we got, but they picked it up anyway, and they made both of them pass. that after a little discussion between spirit and medium, but both spirits decided, yeah, okay, we'll go, and off they went. So that was like a happy ending for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the scenario we had in the pub in Canewdon, it's a pub, again, in Canewdon.
Was it the Anchor?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know that one. It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's a lovely pub. We were actually called in on a professional basis. Yep. Nothing to do with being psychic or spiritual or investigating or anything like that. But I used to be involved in... I used to be sell scopes, like keyhole surgery scopes.
Yep.
Well, they do those for an industrial side of things as well, to look inside engines. Anyway, when the medium had been there, she'd been there for a meal, and she said, and there's something behind a wall that's integral. Anyway, the guy who owned the pub at the time had phoned us up and said, you do these scopes, and would you come down with one of your scopes and have a look behind this wall for us, please, rather than us taking the wall down? So me and the lads were like, yeah, it's a jolly, do you know what I mean? The chance to use the equipment in a different way. So they went along with their kit and drilled holes in walls and sticking their little scope through to see if we could find anything. Couldn't find anything behind the wall at all, so that wasn't backed up at all. But while we were there doing that, the medium had actually come along just to see what was found, if anything.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, she actually kind of passed out. This is actually, I say it's quite funny because, as I say, this was before my...
before your paranormal...
Before my paranormal days. Anyway, me and my friend who both worked at the company were like going, oh my God, this woman's just like passed out on the floor. What the hell do we do with her? You know what I mean? So we're like, I'm trying to wake her up going, come on, you're okay, let's get you out of here. You know as you do. She got her around, got her down halfway down this flight of stairs. And then she sat down and her voice changed. And she was talking like in the voice of this woman, but it wasn't like she had been talking before. Yep. And she was going, he's coming. A bit like what you were saying.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, who's coming? Like, what the hell is going on? And we were like so confused about what to do and how best to deal with this scenario. And I remember it was one of the funniest things. I say funny in retrospect. I hope you understand, everybody. But I went, can you see a light? And like, go towards the light. And it really felt, it was almost a go towards the light, Marianne, kind of moment. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, this woman then started talking in a male voice, saying, you can't have her. And then this woman just sort of collapsed again. And then we got her out the pub, and her husband turned around and we go, oh, she does this on a regular basis. And we were like, oh, right, thanks for your help. We were like really shell-shocked about it all, like how to deal with it. But we didn't find anything behind the wall with our scopes. That's all I can say on that one. But that's an interesting little tale that pre-paranormal days, pre-knowledge days on that one.
So that was almost like your first experience in on a spiritual assault.
Well, for her, yeah. I mean, for me, it was more like a poltergeist moment of like, go towards the light, Marianne. Yeah. Because I didn't know what else to do.
Surely they would have put up protection to stop that happening. That's all. Something that always baffles me. The mediums that do that.
I don't know. I mean, as I say, we didn't really talk to her after that. We were too like, just give me a glass of whiskey kind of moment. It's just like, I can't believe I just experienced that. What the hell was that about?
I do remember we done a pub investigation. I think it was in Rochford, called the Oak. Mm. And we was called there to do an investigation, and we turned up and we done what we needed to do, and one of their friends turned up who was a medium. I ended up throwing her out in the end. It was just so funny. She kept, every now and again, she'd just get taken over, allegedly.
A Derek Acora moment.
Oh, absolutely, it was 2 or 3 times, and I was like, well, look, I think, you need to go home now. This spirit must have had enough.
I don't know about it, but can you imagine though, if it's true, if that is actually happening, the toll it must take on the medium's body?
Absolutely, and not because I just wanted to get rid of her anyway, but it was just an excuse. And I was like, look, as you said, it's got to take a toll on you. You're better off away from this location because you're obviously susceptible to it. Just go home.
Yeah.
But to kill two birds with one stone. I mean, you know yourself, I don't like mediumship on the investigations that we do because I want to gather information to see if we can research.
Yeah.
And that to me would prove or disprove any paranormal activity, any spirits there. If we can get names and dates and it all be accurate,
And we can verify it, and you can verify that through research. Then,
so I don't necessarily have to see them, just sort of on voice box or whatever. That'd do me. As long as we can verify.
Yeah, verification.
But I don't think not all spiritual, or what we class as spiritual assaults, I don't believe that they're all assaults, basically. I think sometimes it can be an impression. Say, for example, a spirit, they died when they got stabbed or something. And then them forcing that memory onto you.
Yeah, because you see that on platform mediumship quite a bit, where they go, oh, and they'll be touching their heart, and they'll be going, oh, I think this spirit passed with a condition. I'm getting pains in my heart, and they're not actually having heart problems themselves. They're just spirit are giving them the impression so they can pass that message on as to why they passed. Almost like a point of proof as to who they've got, as it were.
That's it, and I think although that we could perceive that as an assault, especially in an investigation setting, but I think sometimes, it's just sort of that sort of scenario going on. When we done the True Crimes Museum down in Hastings, we had one of our investigators. I mean, 3 or 4 of the female investigators were all scratched on their arms and things, and I was like, you know what, you could have done that yourself. We don't really know. So we sort of discounted that. But one of our investigators, at the top of her chest, said like it really hurt. So she showed like the area that it was hurting, and there was 3 blisters appeared in a triangle. And we was like, right, okay, so what have you done? And she said, I haven't done anything. I was just standing next to the. They've got like a gurney, a table, where they would do the lethal injection.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
And she was standing next to that, and then she got the pain in her chest. Now the only thing that I can put to that is that when they give the lethal injection, don't they? Sometimes they have those injections that have 3 needles. The injectors. 3 needles in it.
I honestly don't know, to be fair.
Okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, different places probably do it different ways.
I would have thought it would have gone through the arm.
Well, I think that's how they do it now, but we're talking like
originally,
years
like
ago.
Years ago, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you have got injectors, syringes with the 3 needles. So I thought maybe it could have been attributed to that. So whoever died on that table had that.
Or it could have been an insect bite. It got trapped down her top and bit her 3 times, and it just happened to look like a triangle.
In a triangle, yeah, it was like really strange. I don't think it was the bug.
No, it's hard to call, isn't it?
The probability of that is very small. So I don't think it would be that.
Because some people, if they are bitten by an insect, do come up with like blisters or red wheals, or it comes up quite vicious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like a hive look. But so I did look into this. There are different logical explanations for the scratching, not so much the blister that you're talking about, but like the 3 scratches that we see. There is a skin condition called dermatographia. It's also known as skin writing. And basically, you could touch yourself really lightly, and it comes up as a scratch.
Yeah.
And it actually affects quite a lot of people at various times throughout their life. Now, it can be triggered by various things. They've got no known reason why it gets triggered in a person, but it could be an infection within your body somewhere. It can be caused if you're going through an emotional upset, or even if you're taking something like penicillin.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably loads of other side effects of different medications as well that could be the same.
Yeah. I mean, another one was, this is actually a antihistamine drug can cause this. It's called prednisone reaction.
Okay.
Okay, and basically what happens is it thins the skin. So when you take this medicine, it thins the skin. So the slightest thing can come up as a scratch. So if you've got a bit of rough, like you get like a label or, something a bit rough on a belt or something like that, that can, because the skin is so thin, the skin is so thin, it can cause what looks like scratches in a, 3 or 4 times, and you've got scratches on your skin. If your skin's dry, again, that can come up. We know what that bad dry skin, we know it looks scaly and can flake. But if it's sort of in the early stages of dry skin, it can come up like a scratch. It can, if you touch it lightly, it can scratch you more than you think. So it could be these regular, we see it quite often on the socials or the, the various paranormal YouTubes and stuff like this. These scratches, there could be other explanations other than it being a spirit attack.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so not convinced by scratches. Really, they really don't. It's not something that I would go and further investigate.
No. But then having said that, when we was at the dance studio with Mark Manley, I have to say we were investigating a particular area. There were an incredible high EMFs in that area. So any of our baseline tests were going off the scale EMF, which we know can have a psychological effect on you. So we were sort of discounting a lot of things because of that. But he ended up with 3 scratches. At the same time that happened, we had photographs taken, and there was some weird shadowy, I can't say figures because that you can't really class them as a figure, but blotches, should we say? I think that's the best description. In the photographs, which weren't there before and weren't there after. But whilst we had these weird dark patches, he experienced these 3 scratches. Now, Mark himself, for you guys out there who aren't aware, Mark actually has a deformed hand. So he's got one fully functioning hand, and one hand has got like three fingers on it, and it's quite hard for him to manoeuvre equipment and stuff like that. So he was in his hand, his normal hand, he actually had the camera in his normal hand. So it was only his other hand that was free, as it were. And if I remember rightly, he was leaning against the door with that hand. So he hadn't scratched himself, as it were. And he went, oh, my stomach's burning. And we lifted his top up and he had these 3 scratches. But as I say, when we look back at the timestamps, what was captured on a different camera was these weird anomalies. They weren't orbs. They were definitely not orbs.
Yeah.
But like they were shadows, and they were strange. There probably was an explanation for that, but it just seems strange, the timing of that.
Yeah.
But at the time, we don't know what medicines he were on. We don't know, was he emotionally, psychologically going through something? I don't know. I can't remember. You know what I mean? So these factors are worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in that instance, I'd see, it's difficult because I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know what? I think there's a lot of teams out there that even overlook the scratches and stuff. I think it might even be worthwhile for some teams to check each other over first.
Wow. Naked investigating.
Not quite.
Oh, okay.
Just before they go in, they could check arms and legs and stuff for scratches. Because then if they do get scratches, they go, well, that weren't there earlier.
Yeah, we know wasn't there.
Yeah, not many investigators do that. maybe
I
that's
don't know
something
many
that should be
investigators
added.
that would want somebody else checking them over before they started an investigation, to be
yeah,
fair.
because I'm trained, I give you all full medical beforehand.
Could you
Much like
imagine?
that.
Right, and you starting a brand spanking new team. Right,
Yeah.
before we begin, we do a full body check. You'd be like, a pardon? What?
Exactly.
Well, yeah,
But-
we need to check your back, your stomach, your arms and your legs for any, like, marks. You'd be like, what, marks of the devil?
Yeah, I've got one right on the back of there. But no, seriously, it is something that could rule out the scratches.
It could rule out somebody faking,
Exactly.
possibly. Who knows? I did come across one site, I will say this. It was highly belief system driven
Yeah.
website from the Catholicism faith.
Okay.
And they said that if you get 3 scratches in a line, then basically it means destruction or to destroy.
Right. Okay.
If you have a mark on your body that kind of looks like an E, but it has like 2 lines through it,
Yeah.
it means incomplete or separation.
Isn't that like the Euro symbol?
Yeah, a bit like the Euro symbol.
Okay.
Yeah, it means incomplete or separation, which sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, it does a bit, doesn't it?
A leap of assumption there, everybody.
But hey, let's not talk about Brexit.
No, we won't talk about that. And if you find an F, what looks like an F, and apparently this doesn't just happen physically, this could happen on your tech, this could happen on walls, this could happen on doors, anywhere like that. And it urged you to check all of this. I would say this site was highly belief system driven.
Led.
It meant to fail. So if you find an F, it means you're going to fail.
Okay.
Just so
That
you know,
explains
everybody.
all my exam papers.
Yep, same here. All I'm saying. So what about when you feel like you've been pushed, or when see, when someone says, oh, I just got touched or I just got pushed, I just kind of see those as like muscle twitches or, something like that.
I've experienced what they class as webbing. When they get like a feeling that someone's touched them on the back of the hand, for example, and it just feels like a spider's web over your hand, or your arm, or whatever. That they consider that being touched by spirit, but I don't. I just class it as you just put your hand in a spider's web,
or your nerve endings are just going for a tingle.
Exactly, it's natural. I don't think it's anything spiritual.
One thing I did find which was quite interesting, I would just like to say this, was, like when you get like a muscle twitch, which I suppose could feel like a push, particularly if it's in your back or somewhere like that, you get a muscle twitch, which could feel like a push because of your muscle. It can actually be caused by a caffeine overdose.
Yep.
Now, when you think about what people are eating and drinking on locations...
Exactly, yep. A lot of people do drink coffee.
Yeah, they drink a lot of coffee and tea and Mountain Dew or Red Bull. Now, I actually looked into this, right? The average person should only have 400 milligrams per day, which is the recommended dose, I suppose, amount of caffeine a day, right? I think I do about double that, actually, on a regular day. Now, Mountain Dew itself has 92 milligrams of caffeine per 16 ounces.
Okay.
That's a basic can.
See, I do about one of those a year, so...
Yeah, I don't drink any of these energy drinks, but a lot of people do on investigations, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I turn up with a couple of cans, but I'll drink one can, probably one can every month or so.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's not a major issue for me.
No, Red Bull...
I don't really like them either, to be fair.
No, I'm not keen personally, but Red Bull has 80 milligrams per 8.3 ounces.
Okay.
So that's like almost, if you think on a 16-ounce can for Mountain Dew, that's double the amount.
Yeah.
Right, and black coffee. This is 12 ounces of black coffee, by the way. 260 milligrams.
Okay, well, I've never really measured out my coffee, so I wouldn't know much I have.
No, but when you think the amount of tea, coffee, chocolate, Haribo, everything else that people have when they're investigating throughout the evening.
Yeah,
And
they're all bouncing off the walls.
They're all bouncing off the walls with caffeine. So
Yeah.
caffeine overdoses can cause these inadvertent muscle twitches. Not just that, but caffeine is a blinking nightmare, quite frankly, because it can cause seizures, as you know, irregular heartbeats,
absolutely,
headaches, dizziness, irritability, amongst... That's just the ones I found roughly that you could put in a paranormal investigation. There are plenty of others as well, but I'm not going to scare you all. But when you think in a paranormal investigation, someone says, "Oh, I'm feeling nauseous," or "I've got a really bad headache," all of a sudden, it could just be down to the caffeine.
Yep.
Couldn't it?
It could even, I mean, some people go out on investigation and don't eat at all.
Yeah.
And that also gives people nausea, feeling nauseous and headaches.
And grumpiness, I would say.
Yeah. I know it annoys me.
It annoys me when I don't eat too.
So I've been in St John, 25 years now, and the amount of people that have actually come up to me and said, "I don't feel well. Like, have you had anything to eat or drink?" No. Go away from me. Have something to eat and drink, and then come back in half an hour.
And tell me how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't have multiple amounts of cups of coffee and loads of Haribo and chocolate, because that's not going to work. But then having said that, when you get sunstroke, aren't you supposed to have Coke and ready salty crisps?
Do you know what? Ready salty crisps I could see working. Coke, I think that's more for the sugar, diabetics and stuff.
Oh, okay.
In particular, if they have low blood sugar level. But unless you're trained, it's quite difficult to tell between the two. So the advice that they used to give was basically just give them a can of Coke if they're diabetic, because it raises their sugar, and it's easier to lower their sugar than the other way around.
So there could be underlying medical issues as well as to why you're experiencing these symptoms. Particularly, it's late at night, you're tired, your body is generally knackered because you're going for a long time without sleep, which you might not be used to. Indeed.
I mean, this is why when I go on investigations, I take my full med kit, and he's got blood pressure kit, blood monitoring, the sugar levels, all that sort of stuff. So if anyone does get ill on our events, we can then do, literally, I could do a full medical.
Didn't you have that? Where was that? Where the lady came over feeling ill, and you ended up... Yeah? Can you tell me about that?
That was at Cold House Fort. It was one of the members of the team that actually work at the fort. She claimed that she felt really drowsy, almost like she was drunk, and she fell over one of the cannons, believe it or not. So I went to see her. By the time I got there, she was actually up and walking around, so we sat her into the tea and coffee place, and I basically said, "Look, I don't really want you to carry on. I want you to go home, get some rest. I've checked blood pressure, everything that I could think of. There's no logical explanation for why you fell over, other than you could be possibly faking it, but I didn't say that." But I said to her, "Look, just go home," and she's like, "No, I want to stay." So I'm like, "Okay, but stay, but it's your own decision," sort of thing. I can't force you. And a bit later, I was again called back to her. She'd collapsed in one of the rooms, completely out of it. By the time I got there again, she was drifting in and out of consciousness, but she come around when I was about to put an airway in, funnily enough. So again, we got her up, got her back to the tea room, and I said, "You know what, you need to go home now." And I made the team go and take her home. And I said, like, if you feel like that again, go to GP. But I think, personally, there was nothing wrong with her. And the team has been known to put ideas in people's heads and things, but they're no longer running that location.
All right, okay.
Yeah. But we have had people that are diabetic as well on investigation, they them two have said like they feel like drained of sugar, drained of energy, and stuff like that, headaches. So we sat them down, give them a can of Coke, and they're fine half hour after. So just simple, good old first aid wins away every time.
Yeah, that's true. So it may not be a spiritual attack; it could just be a physical.
Exactly.
Physical symptom.
I mean, although I am in St John Ambulance, and I know if there's anyone out there that wants, if they haven't got a first aider in the team, then there's a phone app you can download from St John Ambulance. It's totally free, and it gives a blow-by-blow account of what you can do for different injuries and stuff. So it's definitely worth downloading. So if you do get a casualty, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Before the ambulance gets here.
Well, that's always handy to know, isn't it? Now,
so yeah, definitely free.
There is one other thing that causes muscle spasms like this, which this is a bit of a reach, I will say, but I thought it's worth bringing to the table. It's called a hypnagogic jerk, which basically is like when you fall asleep and then you jerk like you're falling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's actually called a hypnagogic jerk.
Awesome. I love that word.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah, it's cool. Cool word.
Yeah.
And it basically is a throwback. Well, this is what one psychologist said. I don't know how true this is. But he basically said it's a throwback to instinct. So like when we used to sleep in precarious places for safety, like up trees and on ledges and weird stuff like that, really. It was a natural body instinctual reaction to stop you falling.
Awesome.
So, because you do move in your sleep and stuff, as we all know.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a throwback to that, and that happens just before you fall asleep. So don't forget, you're investigating late at night. You're getting tired. You generally, sometimes you're cold.
And you'll get that, and you'll be like, someone touched me.
But that usually happens at night in bed. I would just like to state that. That's usually on the edge of sleep. So, and I don't know many people that sleep standing up. Do you?
No, but I'm sure there's people out there that can.
But I thought it was worth having a little mention of that one because I love the word, the hypnagogic jerk.
Hypnagogic, that's awesome. I love that. I did actually find on a website that I did actually Google just for that guy that complained. Yeah. I did, and it says it's more to do with like an attack and possession type thing. Basically, ways to tell that you're under spiritual attack. And to be fair, I think with these things that are listed, we're all under attack. The first one is lack of spiritual passion. 2 was extreme frustration. 3, confusion about purpose. 4 was lack of peace. 5 is unusually sluggish and tired. 6 was strong urge to quit an assignment. 7 was drawback to old bondages. I think that's more to do with the whole used to have negative people in your life and you go back to them. And 8 was question directions and call that wasn't so clear. I don't know what that meant, but okay. But yeah, it was just. I think we can all agree that we're all under a spiritual attack.
Well, if that's the case, then I had to go through that on a daily basis,
exactly,
at some point or other throughout the day.
Yeah, I read that and I thought, you know what, I've got to read that out because that's just so funny. we're all under spiritual attack, everybody. So yeah.
But we've all been we've talked about energy vampires before, haven't we? So if we say that, if we acknowledge that another person's energy can affect our own energy, a living person's energy can affect our energy, then if you have a belief in spirit and believe spirit are real, which a lot of people do because which I do as well, I would just like to point that out. I've had too many experiences and I work in that way. So, why can't they?
Exactly.
Who knows, eh? Right? It's one of those unknown, isn't it? Anyway.
It is, and I just think it's a case of whatever you put out, you get back. So if you're negative and you get negative feedback, you put out positive, you'll get positive feedback.
Well, we can only pray.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think we've come to the end of the show. We're overrunning now, aren't we?
Well, we're dead on the button, honey.
Oh, okay. So what's coming up for next week?
Well, we're talking...
Or the rest of the week.
Oh, the rest of this week.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we have Haunted Histories. She is talking to Mr. Paul Stevenson, all about Prism Nightclub in Nottingham. Now, also, don't forget, she's launching a new competition on her show. So if you want to find out the details, you need to listen to Haunted Histories. And then after the show, she's going to post it on our group page. Then on Friday evening, we have the lovely Kerry back in the studio with Seventh Sanctum, talking all about the Slender Man. And then on Sunday, we have myself and Penny in the studio giving a tribute to Remembrance Day.
Excellent. And we've got something really exciting at the weekend as well. Yeah?
We have something awesome this weekend. Don't forget, guys, it is Sage Paracon this weekend at Coombe Abbey. We will be going live throughout the weekend, live from Coombe Abbey at Sage Paracon, both on the Spreaker page and also doing some Facebook Lives throughout the Saturday as well, with our very own Penny, and the lovely Carl Hutchinson is helping us out on that one too. So don't forget, guys, there are still very few tickets available. So if you do want a ticket, then get in contact with MJ Dixon through Sage Paracon and see what's left available if you do want to attend that. And I suggest you do, because there are some amazing speakers at that event, including Katrina Wildman. I can never say her last name. That's awful, isn't it?
It is. That's terrible. You need to go and speak to her.
I need to talk to Katrina and say, how do you say your last name?
Yeah. Absolutely. Get her on.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry about that. And next week on your show, what are we talking about next week?
I don't know. I knew you were going to do that.
Exorcisms.
Oh, yeah, exorcism. Because I thought we'd follow up from spiritual sorts.
Yeah, we're going to have a little look at exorcisms. We shall exorcise the demon.
That's it. If you go to the Facebook group, you can see all my shows right up until Christmas.
Yeah, that's true. You can. And then it keeps changing them.
I changed one. I'll see it by request.
Oh, don't worry. I've got one coming up for you next year as well that I've already booked you in for.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough. I should look forward to that one.
Oh, I'm sure you shall. He's a lovely man, actually. I think you're going to adore him.
Awesome. Cool. All right, then. Well, that's it. I think thank you for everyone joining me in the chat room, and thank you, Kerry, for joining me as always. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.